Okay, good morning, everyone. This is me, Dr. Irfan Ahmed from Bangkok. Now, today we will talk about our second lecture. It is about the critiquing a research paper. And the last paper we study about the healthier quality of life. But now in today's lecture, we will talk about how we can critique a research article. Sometime our students or sometime any journal send us an article and they ask for reviewing, but at the time we stuck, we don't know what to do with that. So in this lecture, after this lecture, you will be able to do a critiquing a paper very easily, because there is just few steps you have to keep them in mind. And no, it's not a big like rocket sciences. But before beginning the critique process, the first thing that you have to remember is you have to collect all the materials that are related to the article. For example, the script, the manuscript, the tables, the figures, the charts, or bibliography or appendix, or anything that is related to the article that you are going to start starting the critiquing. So you have to collect everything that is related to it. The second thing is you have to write notes. When you read, you have to write notes according what's your concerns, because sometimes you skip, because you don't rely purely on the memory, because human is a very weak, and error can happen. So you have to jot down every detail that you want to find out, and or just you want to be concerned about that. So you have to jot down and make notes. And the second thing is the research article reading is not like critiquing, is not the linear fashion, like you start from the abstract and then go straight down to the introduction and then methodology and then the result. It's not the linear process. You can move back and forth according to your concern. So it's not the linear process. These three things you have to concern about, you have to keep in mind when you start on the research critiquing process. So now let's talk about what we call the content of this presentations, right? The content of this presentation include the preliminary reviews. What is like, how can we do the preliminary reviews? The second is how can we criticize the introduction parts, then the methodology part, results part, discussions, conclusion, references, and the general consideration overall about the articles. So these are the contents of today's presentations. Now, preliminary review, what is that? What is the preliminary review? Basically, the preliminary review is actually read the title, and this is actually done at the start and at the end. So you read the title and you ask these questions from: does it clearly describe the studies? So when the start of the study, you don't know about the article, so you just have to keep this in mind. The article, when you read the title of the article, when you read all the articles, you have the title in the minds. So then at the end of the article, you have to answer this: does it clearly describe the study or not? The second thing is, should it be specific and contain the specific keywords for the readers that can easily find that articles? Does the article contain all the keywords that are required for the study, for any search, for any article searcher or any article hunter for that, so they can easily find it? So you have to keep these two things in mind: the clearly description and the specificity, and contain specific keywords. The second thing in the preliminary study is about the abstract. Does it provide a concise summary of the research or not, right? And the second thing that you have to keep in mind about reading the abstract is that it should include an overview, the purpose, right? Overview of the methods, the major finding, and the end of the conclusion, right? It is actually the abstract is actually just the short summary of all the finding, because the abstract, the best one should only give you the inking of what was done. You cannot actually summarize all your critiquing result based on the abstract. It is just the inking of the articles, what is done. So the preliminary review is about that, right? Now let's talk about introduction. What we can see, look for an introduction. The first thing is about the background. Is there sufficient background information on this topic? For example, if the article is about balance problem in elderly, so the article introduction part should contain all the necessary information about elderly, the prevalence, definitions, and the incidence and the risks of fall or balance issues, right? And the background information on this topic. The second thing is, does is define the problem and state the importance of research, right? Like, what is the problem, what is the research gap, why I'm doing this research. So you have to find this thing, search for the problems or research gap in the introduction section, right? The purpose of the study, like they state there is a gap, and what is the purpose, why am I doing. Okay, you have to look for the purpose of the research. The third thing that you have to look for in the introduction portion is research question and hypothesis. Are they clearly stated, or are the hypothesis or research question relevant or not? So these three things are the main thing that you look for in the introduction portion. Mostly the background is the first two paragraphs. The purpose, you will find it in the third or the last paragraph. Research question and hypothesis, it's also somehow in the middle, before the purpose and after the background. So you have to look for all these details in the introduction section, right? The second thing is what we call it methodology, right? The methodology is actually what we call it is the core of the articles. If you did the methodology wrong in any research article, so your all the studies or all your effort is like worthless. So the methodology is the main thing that you have to keep very much focus when you criticizing any research paper. You have to look for all these things. What research design is, the study design like experimental, observational, qualitative, quantitative, like what type of study is done. The author or the writer must describe the design of the study, like what type of study am I doing. And the second question that you ask is, when you read the article, is, was this design appropriate for this type of research question or not? Okay. And the third thing is informed consent. Was the participant that are included in the study, are they informed about, are they given a consent, and are they informed about any the potential side effects or benefits of the drugs or any treatment or any interventions, benefit and side effects and something. So they, every person should be informed or not. You have to look for this also. The second thing is like you have to think about the sample. How was the participant chosen? Really, was the sample size appropriate or not? And what about the groups? How many groups are there? There is this the intervention group, the comparison group, and the placebo or some groups. So you have to look for all these things. And what type of variables are actually they are studying? Did they mention all the variables under studies or not? And any potential biases in the sample selection. For example, if they are studying the elderly and they are studying the effect of fall, the prevalence of fall in elderly, so there are some confounding factors. So did the writer keep all these factors in mind or not? Because they actually influencing the result, create biasness in the result. So did the writers mention anything about that or not? The third thing is data collection. So are the tools and the procedure for data collection described? Like what type of questionnaires or what type of outcome measure are he using? Or whether what type of exercise or what type of treatment medicine are he using, prescribing or he giving to the patient, and what are the procedure, how will he give, any blindness of the assessor, blindness of the therapist or not. The second thing, are they suitable for study or not? Really, like the tools that he is using, is it appropriate for their study or not? For example, he is finding the breathing pattern disorders in elderly. So which type of questionnaire is he using? For example, he's using Najman questionnaire. So is this Najman questionnaire effective, sensitive, specific, and elder population or not? Okay. And number of time each group tests, pre-test, post-test, pre-test, post-test, and after follow-up. So how many times each group were assessed? Okay. You have to look for all these things in the data collection section. And the data analysis section, are the statistics or statistical test clearly explained? Like, for example, he is using independent t-test, or for example, he is using, for the normality, he is using Shapiro-Wilk test, right? So you have to look for whether Shapiro-Wilk test is good for this population or not, for this sample size or not. Or here he should use a Kolmogorov seminal or independent t-test or categorical, if he has categorical data. So what type of statistics is he applying? So you have to look for all these things also. Are they appropriate for the study or not? If there is a comparison, so he should use independent, for example, if there is one is dependent group, one was independent group, so he can use independent t-test. But and rather than he use categorical, like for example, he used the chi-square test, it is not appropriate for the study. So you have to look for all these things. And the second thing is also in the methodology, you have to look for population he is using, right? Like he is using the whether, like you have to look for whether the population that he is chosen from the community, so the result he obtained, it can be generalized or not. Okay, so this is also the thing that you have to look for in the methodology section. And after methodology, we have the result sections. Okay, result is how he present his data. Are the result clearly presented using table, figure, graphs, and whatever are necessary? Okay, clarity, are the result explained clearly in the text? And consistency, do the result consistent, support or refute the hypothesis or research question or not? And the result, actually in the first para, you have to look for whether the writer explained that my hypothesis was that and the result is that. So my hypothesis is consistent with my result or not. You have to look for this also. And the second thing is in the result section is actually the best thing when you approach the result is you read the table and the figure first. So you reach to the conclusion before the reader, before the writer tell you anything. You read the result, like when you see the tables and what is described in the table, so you reach already to the conclusion that this is has result. No, so then after reading the tables, when you read the text, you will understand that whether the writer just repeat, like there is a repetitions of the results or no, this is the result is explained very well, just only the main data is written in the text, or all the data that are present in the table they are written in the text. So you have to look for that also, because the bad result is they just repeat, they just put everything from the data and then write it down. This is not the good way to write in the result section. Okay, and the second thing is author should highlight table data and narrators not repeated, right? And the highlighted data should be most powerful data that the author will discuss. Okay, if author state hypothesis in the introduction, he should also state early in the result whether or not the hypothesis were supported or rejected, that I mentioned earlier. So after the result, the fourth thing is discussion. Okay, and the discussion sections, you have to interpret, does the author relate the result back to the hypothesis or research question or not, right? The comparison, does author compare the finding with other research in the field or not? Okay, implication, or the broader implication of the study discussed, like what are the implication or positive or the positivity of the result? Is it journalized or not? Really? Okay, and the limitation is, does the author acknowledge any limitation of the study or not? Because most of the book says that the author is the only one who knows what are my limitation. As I am the reader, I can know the limitation of the study, but the main person who write the limitation is actually the author. And this is not the bad thing you write the limitation of the study, because limitation is everything has limitations. So it's actually you give a push for your future research that these are my limitations. So if any other person, if he is also interested in this topic, so he can start from this point or from this limitations. Okay, so it is actually good, and it is not the bad thing to write the limitation of your results. Okay, after that we have the conclusion, right? And the conclusion section is actually, it's about you actually summarize everything that you explain above your result section. You actually summarize, right? Okay, like does the conclusion compactly summarize the main finding or not? The main finding, not everything, just a main finding, you summarize it. And the future recommendation, this is also the good thing. And the discussion, you write the limitation, and here you write the recommendation. Okay. And after the conclusion, we have the references. And the references, we check for relevance. Are the cited source relevant to the study or not? For example, if your area of study is medicines, or and you cited most article from the yoga therapy, or from the pilates, or from the Chinese medicines, so it is not the good thing. You cite from the other field of studies. You have to cite your domain, your area of studies, right? The article from your area of studies. References is the currency, like all the references is like up to date, latest. For example, if you are doing research in 2013, sorry, 2023, so you have to cite the articles that are 22, like 5 year back, not too much more than 5 year. Okay, because this is particularly important in the fast evolving field. Credibility, you have to look for the credibility of the article from you take the references, because it is good. Sometimes just every some from the low quality quality research you cited, so it is not accepted by some high quality journal when you want to publish in that. The final thing is journal considerations. Okay, and the journal consideration, you have to look for the objective. Are the claims support with evidence? Like the patient claim that, like for example, a breathing pattern disorder can lead to fall. Okay, so are these claims support with existence evidence or not? They are present already in the literatures. Or does the author show any biasness or not? Relevance, or is this research relevant to the field, or does it add new knowledge or not? Okay. Clarity of the writing, is the paper well organized without Jordan, or easy to follow up or not? Like are they using the academic, mostly academic words, or just like informal words, or so on? So you have to look for this also. Ethical considerations, was the research conducted ethically or not? Were the participant rights protected? Because this is the main thing, because when you are doing research involving human subject, you have to take in some ethical consideration. Ethical, there is a lot of ethical review committees, so you have to take permission from that before doing any research. And the other overall evaluation is, was the original questions answered or not? Like the question of research questions, is it answers all these findings, answer the question or not? If yes, so was it convincing? Like, is it convincing for you or not? Like, is critical, is critical, are you convinced with the finding or not? And the second thing is the study worth replicable or extendable or not? If yes, what would you suggest? What would you do next? Or what you actually, the critique process, the main thing that you have to keep in mind before starting the critique process is like, it is, it should be like constructive criticism. Okay, if you critique something and you can't provide any alternative, so your critique, it is best you don't critique. You critique only on anything if you provide something good solution. If you can't provide good solution, it is waste to just critique. It is not just critique, it is the constructive criticism on the article. Sometimes some authors write something and you don't find it good, but you don't have any alternative to suggest to the author, so it is best don't critique that point. Okay, okay. This is I think the end of the critique process. uh, okay, personal reflection, write the brief summary of the key point you criticize. This is for the journal editor. If you someone ask you that critique this article for my journal. So this is the personal reflection. Write a brief summary of the key point you critiques. Like as I mentioned earlier, you have to note everything. So you have to note down the summary. What is the points? What are the points that are limited or that are not, that should be mentioned in the article, but it is not mentioned. So you have to write a brief summary. Suggestion: provide constructive feedback for improving the paper or further studies. Okay, you have to provide as you are the master, or you are in the you have a good position in your field, so you know that what will be the good thing, what will be the good constructive thing to improve this article. So you have to suggest something about this. And remember, the good criticism is not just to identify flaws, but also but also to appropriate strength and suggest way for improvement. Okay, this is the main thing that you have to keep in mind. And thank you so much for your time today. This is the end of our presentation, and I hope you enjoy it. And we will meet in our next meeting. Thank you.